I do a weekly vlog. I do various other vlogs. I've got 2 or 3 vlogs that I'm currently working on. So what am I doing? Adding to it. So welcome to the vlog for the Gaze and Faes 24-hour readathon. Hey everyone, how you doing today? My name's Kirsty, aka Beth Bookish, and on today's video I'm doing a very impromptu and unplanned vlog. I saw Ren's TBR for this month and on the 2nd of February, and they were like, oh yeah, on the 3rd of February is a 24-hour readathon that is dedicated to reading queer sci-fi fantasy books. And I was like, of course there is. Luckily, I've already started a book this week that is queer sci-fi fantasy. So I was like, well, if I don't read any today, I can just finish it tomorrow during that readathon, hopefully. And then I had a very quick look and I was like deliberately going through my ebooks because I read ebooks way quicker than physical, and B, I really want to clear some ebooks off my shelf this year, especially the ones that I got from Stuff Your Kindle. And I found 2 that I have got through Stuff Your Kindle that aren't super duper long. So between these 3 books, there's not even 500 pages. And I'm like, I know that in 24 hours I can do that. Although the readathon doesn't actually start until 5 p.m. my time. So I'm like, well, that narrows it down. I'll probably read from like 5 till 12 and then I have a 9-hour sleep. But it's fine. I would just, bless you. I'd rather do it all in one go, but that's not happening. So I have chosen 3 things that I'm going to try and get read tomorrow. And the first one is going to be Asan for the World Built. This is the one that I started on the 1st of February. And so far I am really enjoying. There's a couple of things that I've sort of gone, yeah, I really like that. But I'm only 24 pages in, so I've still got a while to, I've got another chapter or so, I think, before I fully absorb into it. It's my first time reading a book from the perspective of someone who is non-binary. So it's taken me the whole of that chapter to get used to seeing the words they, them, their in sort of used in ways I'm not used to seeing, hearing, using. There were a couple of moments where I had to stop to be like, wait, do we mean they plural or they singular? And obviously for a second it tripped my brain a little bit, but then I got used to it and now I'm okay. But I'm really liking the setup for this. You've got Dex, who is a tea monk, who basically it's their job to go around, make tea for people, listen to their problems, only they've never done it before. They haven't got a clue really what they're doing. And their first attempt was a pretty big disaster. And that's where I've kind of got to. I know that at one point there were robots in the world and the robots left to be their own people, and because they just didn't really like being subpar to humans. But now a robot is tasked with coming back to check up on humanity and basically find out what humans need. I haven't yet gotten to the point where the robot has met Dex, but I'm sure it's going to be very cute and wholesome, and I'm really expecting big things considering how so many people have said that this is like a hug in a book and is a comfort cozy read, and I'm very much in that kind of cozy read era at the minute, as I found out with Before the Coffee Gets Cold last month. So I'm really hoping to get those sort of warm, cuddly, fuzzy vibes from this. After that, I've then chosen 2 ebooks. The first is the shorter of the 2, so I certainly know I can get this and this first one out of the way, and that is Hopelessly Hooked, A Fated Mate's Queer Fairy Tale Romance, and then in brackets, Big Bad Deeds book. And the series is Big Bad Deeds, and this is book 1 by Rose Sinclair. This is a Captain Hook retelling. I'm just gonna read it and put the cover up here. So, paint the second star to the right and just always be waiting for me. Warren, darling, try as I may, I can't get the voice of the Jolly Rogers captain out of my head. Captain Hook believes my magic keeps him safe, but in truth, I'm pushing him out to sea. We are destined to be together, but what Hook doesn't know can't hurt me. Can't tempt me away from the sanctuary I'm trying to build on land, no matter how badly I want to taste the salt water on his skin. Captain Hook, the difference between a curse and a blessing is perspective. What was meant as a punishment has given me a wonderful life of piracy. The only cost is I'm bound to the mage who cast the spell. Warren is a darling artist who claims to get seasick with black hair and one sky blue eye that captivates me like only the ocean can. If he's as uninterested as he claims, why does he say my real name like my heart is the only treasure that matters? Hopelessly Hooked is a sweet and steamy, small-town, magical binding romance with a happily ever after. It can be read as a standalone or together with the rest of the books in the Bad Deeds series. That one's only 99 pages. So, like I said, that one should only take me about 2 hours to read. This one should only take me about 2.5 to 3 hours to read at most, depending on A, how my brain functions, and B, how fast I want to read, which then means there's plenty of time to read the second book, which is a lot bigger and is a full-size novel, which is Witch Blood, a male-male paranormal fantasy romance, a Kitsune Chronicles story, Book 1, by Lissa Casey. Right, sparks fly as magic and fate collide. Sebastian has always been an outsider, a fox raised among wolves. He's survived on his wit, magic, and instincts, but he's always on the run. That is until he meets Liam, the alpha werewolf whose commanding and powerful presence Sebastian cannot resist. There's magic between them, a spark of something beyond a fox or a wolf, an awakening energy only fate could create. But their happiness is short-lived when Sebastian's dark past comes to haunt him, unleashing a threat they cannot ignore. Together they face rogue wolves, fey monsters, and even demons who threaten their newfound bond. Can they untie their different worlds and fight this evil force, or will their love be torn apart by the darkness that seeks to destroy them? And it says about a contrary kitsune fox who happens to be mated to the most patient werewolf in the world while battling real demons and emotional ones at the same time. Lots of tea, pastries, gardening, wolf taming, sweet and spicy romance, and a dark backstory driving fated mates together. That one is 368 pages, I believe. So obviously that one is probably / possibly not one that I will get to. But I am excited, especially as I have realised how much I love Kitsune, and they are one of my favourite things to read and one of my favourite mythologies. So I am excited for this one. So yeah, that's the plans. Fingers crossed it will go ahead and I will actually get to read some of these. But obviously, if I do read them, you'll see this vlog. If I don't, this vlog never happened. So let's get on and try and get some reading done. Wish me luck. 9:30-ish and first one of the night is done. Psalm for the Wild Built, Becky Chambers. I know a lot of people love this, rave about it, give it 5 stars, absolutely all-time favourite it. I'm not going to say that I didn't enjoy it, because I did. I haven't rated it yet, but I think it's going to be a 4 or a 4.5. So I did very much enjoy it. It was very cute. It was very wholesome. Certainly right at the end, it was really, really giving me like cozy, warm, wrap up in a blanket vibes. And strangely, I'm not normally one for big philosophical questions and theology and stuff like that. I tend to either get really, really annoyed by it, or I get very existential crisis from it. But the way it was written in this was so beautiful. I loved the dystopian setting, and I love the discourse on how humans would survive if all of a sudden we had no access to robots and machinery, because it still has technology and electronics but not robots and machinery like cars and things like that. So it was a very interesting dystopian world. The one thing I will say, as an ecologist, I really appreciate a lot of the talks about ecology, and there was one in particular, there's an example that they used that was, well, she used an example that is Europe and is a very well studied part of history within a lot of Europe. And I studied in quite a lot of detail when I was studying ecology, because one of my special areas was in rewilding. And so this does talk about, it doesn't give it the name rewilding, but essentially if you are interested to know more and didn't know what the terms were, and you want to know a bit more about the ecology side of this, I would say to look up rewilding, ecological corridors, and fragmentation. Those three topics basically are a lot of the fundamental theories and topics from the ecological standpoint that are broached in here. But certainly when it's talking about where they had wolves and that they cleared all the wolves out of the area so that they could safely go and hunt, but unfortunately it imbalanced the ecosystem and all the elk came in. That for me, it started to feel more like I was sitting in a lecture hall. And there were one or two occasions where that happened, where I kind of felt more like I was reading a textbook than a novel. And then there were one or two occasions where it started to feel a tiny bit kind of preachy and like, you will listen to this lecture because you're reading this book, so I'm going to give you a lecture on morality and things like that. So one or two bits didn't really sit great, which is why it's not 5 stars for me. But the theology, the ideology, and the actual act of like the tea and what our roles are, and there is a really big bit that hit me, 2 parts that really hit me in a profound place. The first one was one where it was talking about people's different school of thoughts, and the robot Moscap was talking about how all of the other robots have got their very special niche areas, whereas it has got none, and it just loves everything, and it's always struggled to find its place in the world, and it's always felt kind of inferior. And Brother Dex, the monk, reassures it and is like, well, there is actually a branch of theology that is called the generalists, and they are the people who are very much like that. They are interested in everything, and it's kind of that idea of jack of all trades, master of none. And as someone who has ADHD and has always kind of felt like a failure and that I've not succeeded because I've bounced from career to career and place to place and job to job and things like that, it was really reassuring to have that quote where it was like, I need to find it. I can think of a bunch of monks who disagree with you. You study Bosch's domain, it sounds like, in a very big top-down kind of way. You're a generalist, that's a focus. Just because you don't focus on one particular thing doesn't mean that you're not focused. It just means that you are more broadly focused and you don't have to be that fine. So that one kind of hit me. And then right towards the end, when they were talking about, the pair of them were talking about purpose, and Dex was saying, I've lost my purpose and I'm trying to find what my purpose in life is. And it was just a conversation around what actually is purpose, and that, you know, humans are fundamentally animals, and animals don't have a particular purpose, they just are. And it's this idea of you don't have to keep looking for a purpose, you can just exist and be. So yeah, it has some fantastic moments, but on the whole, like I said, it did have a few bits that I wasn't so keen on. So 4 or 4.5, I will put up here what I eventually give it. And now it's time to go on to the next one. Haven't decided what I'm going to do, so I'm just going to go off, choose a book, start reading it, and I'll let you know what I chose on the next update. I voice noted Ren, and it made me realise that there was something that I did forget about this as well, that it was quite refreshing, because this is more dystopic, whatever. And pretty much every dystopia I've ever read or watched, it's been the big event happened, the world went to shit, and we come into it and the world is in a really bad place and things are falling apart, or there's corrupt governments, and it's just, you know, we need a hero to come in and fix everything. This one was the opposite of that, and I think that's why I really loved the world building, because it was a very gentle, there was an event, but it was a very peaceful event. The robots left, there was no big war, it wasn't like everything was destructive, everything wasn't completely destroyed. And I really liked that it was talking about how the world was rebuilding and how humans had learned to be more cohesive with nature, and that instead of building through nature and destroying it, it now built around it and used nature as the framework. And I think that's another reason why I did really love the world building on this, is because, like I said, even though it's a dystopia, it's a gentle, soft, positive dystopia rather than the doom and gloom that I'm so used to. And it felt very refreshing and very different to any sort of thing that I've read before. Okay, I slept. I feel like crap. I have a migraine brewing again, and it's in my ear and it's really annoying me. I shouldn't really have headphones in. We'll just overlook that. The second book I chose, I decided to go for the full novel. So we have Witchblood by C.L. No, C.L. Polk is Witchmark. But I will put it up here. This is the Kitsune and werewolf romance. I'm 30% in, and I'm kind of enjoying it so far. There's a little bit where I'm like, but I'm actually really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the dynamic where Liam isn't your typical werewolf alpha male. He's big, but he's not like the broody type. And I'm really liking her approach to werewolf lore and how that all works. So I am enjoying it. I think it's going to get quite brutal. It started pretty brutal because it involved SA and it also involved a lot of violence. But there's also some very sweet and tender moments. Like I said, I'm liking the world building, I'm liking the relationships, and I'm liking the Kitsune part hasn't really been explained very much, but I'm hoping we'll get a bit more about that. But yeah, there's a really interesting dynamic because he's the adopted son of the werewolf, like the guy that runs and is in charge of every single werewolf in the world kind of thing. He was adopted by him. But this one, I seem to just keep finding books that are about tea lately, because there was Under the Whispering Door last year with tea. There was the A Song for the Wild Built that I read yesterday. Now this one, the main character makes teas for everyone that are like lavender and chamomile infused and things. I hate flavoured tea. I hate tea. And yet I am obsessed with tea-related stories. I think because it just brings a sort of cosy, wholesome vibe. I don't know. But I am enjoying it. I'm loving some of the dynamics, and I'm really liking the fact that Liam, the alpha werewolf, has a daughter, and so the daughter and Sebastian, who's the main character, are kind of bonding. And then he also has like a broken wolf in the pack where they struggle to keep him in human form. He spends most of his time in wolf form, and any other werewolf pack he probably would have been killed because of safety reasons, but in this one they're sort of trying to get through to him, and this Toby immediately bonds with Sebastian, and I'm just like, it's so cute and he acts like a puppy. So I am enjoying it and I'm looking forward to getting it done. But we've got 4 hours left of the readathon. I've managed to drag myself out of bed long enough to go and get a tea, top up my drink, and I'm going to try and force myself to eat because my stomach needs food, but I just don't want to eat. So we're going to do all that, and then we're going to settle back into bed and do some reading. kind of feel a bit dead. My migraine tablets have kicked in and I need a nap. But I finished Witchblood. It was really good. I ended up really enjoying it. I got to 30% last night. There's 6 minutes left of the readathon and I've just finished it. I really, really enjoyed the dynamic between Seb and Liam. I like how, even though it was slightly insta-lovey, there was a bit of a sort of gap there. There was like a 1 year gap, and even though there were slight time jumps and things, because there was one point where, I'm not going to say the circumstances, but they lose a month and they're apart for a month, but it didn't feel like an unnecessary skip. It actually felt really good. A couple of things were a little bit like unexplained and were a little bit vague, and I kind of wish there was a bit more explanation on that. Towards the end of the book particularly, a couple of things were like but you know. And there was a cat character, so for the cat lady readathon, that was brilliant as well, because there is a cat character in here. He's technically a fae. He's a puck type fae. Takes on the form of either a young boy or a cat, but for the majority of the book he's a cat, and I loved it. I really liked all of the characters in here. Obviously I am going to continue this series because I want to know what happens next, as there's a couple of unresolved things and I'm like, I need to know. I really liked a lot of the characters. I want to get to know more. I didn't enjoy some of the lore around the werewolves in terms of things like, even if they're mated, they can't tell their mate that they're werewolves and things. That was a bit iffy for me. I felt like the world building and the logic behind some of it, I think that's going to be like on core pile the lowest that I rate anything is on logic. It was definitely either a 3.5 or a 4. It's not quite a 5. It was enjoyable. It was good, and I am glad that I picked it up. And it had really, really good spicy stuff in here. Considering we all know I'm not the biggest smut reader, I didn't like that there were a couple of moments where it felt like, oh god, the plot's being taken over by lust, but it didn't. It reined it back in, and when there were a few scenes, it was really, really well written. It was very tasteful. And even when it did some of the more icky stuff that I don't enjoy reading typically, I was still like, okay, this isn't grossing. I was still a little bit ick, but it wasn't grossing me out as badly as it has done with other things. So it was really, really well written in terms of the romance and that kind of stuff. The action scenes were great. There was a little bit where I was a bit like struggling to follow what was going on, but it literally only lasted for a chapter, so it was fine. And another thing that typically I don't enjoy that actually worked really well, this was Alpha Omega, and it didn't say anywhere in the blurb or anywhere in the write-up that it featured Alpha Omega relationships. And it kind of dropped it in all of a sudden. It was like, oh, by the way, I'm also an Omega. And I was like, oh god, because typically I don't enjoy that dynamic at all. Dominant and submissive I'm okay with, but the specific Alpha Omega dynamic I've really struggled to enjoy in the past, but I felt it was really well done in this one. And even though it kind of just dropped it in, it then explained the role of an Omega, and it wasn't just like, I'm Alpha, you're Omega, you do what I tell you. It was a really beautiful bond that they built. And even with the Omega dynamic, they were explaining that in the pack, the Omegas, they're not there to basically be whipped and used. They are a source of stability, and they're really crucial, and they have a very important role. And I really like that it wasn't just sort of like that power play that you see in a lot of Alpha Omega stories. It was actually that the Omega served a really important function, and a very rare function. And yeah, I did enjoy so much about this, and definitely the relationship was super cute, super wholesome. And it is definitely one that I would recommend. The hosts just were saying goodbye and they're all just dead, and then there's one of them that's just like, no, I'm still going. After 24 hours of no sleep and just reading. Everyone else was like, I'm going to bed, I'm going to have a nap, I'm going to get my sleep. And then this one was just like, I'm going to carry on editing, and then I've got sprints later, and we're all just like, are you human? But to finish up and wrap this up, I finished 2 books in 24 hours with a migraine and barely any spoons to my name, and we ended up with 2 4-star. I think this one is going to be a 4-star, thinking about it. They both gave me loads of feels. They both gave me all the like happy vibes. And I'm like, I don't know which one, like, they both gave me like really, because sometimes when I have 2 books that I rate the same, I then think about how they are with each other and I go, well, do I really want to give them both 4 stars when one may have impacted me very differently? And I think I'm going to break it down to, these are both 4-star books. This one was 4-star in terms of it giving me a new experience. It introduced me to some new concepts and it gave me very sort of wholesome, reflective vibes and made me think. This one's 4-star just because it was a genre I love. It was Kitsune, which again, I love that lore, and it had characters that I really, really connected with and fell in love with. So hence, even though they're very, very different books, very different vibes, and I've got very different issues with both, they still gave me a very happy, smiley vibe. So yay, I didn't get any duds on this one. It's a shame I didn't get to the 3rd book, but like I said, I've been low spoons, I've been really struggling with my head, and whenever my head hasn't been bad, I've been trying to do other things to catch up so I don't fall too far behind on like my videos and my editing. That was 5:05. I'm gonna have a bit of a nap, I think, maybe for half an hour, 45 minutes. All I know in me, that's going to end up being I'll wake up at 2 in the morning, but I'm going to take a little bit of a nap and then go carry on with my day. But yeah, first time I'd ever even heard of Faes and Gaze was just over 24 hours ago, was about 30 hours ago, and then following them in the past 24 hours, I've read 2 books back to back, which is a total of nearly 500 pages. So, yay! If you also took part in the 24-hour readathon for Faes and Gaze, let me know. And how did you get on? Did you read anything? Did you finish anything? What did you think? I'm looking forward to taking part in future rounds. Yeah, I hope you're all good. I hope you're staying safe. And until next time.